Getting stuck on the content creation hamster wheel is the most frustrating part of creating content for all content creators. So that's why we need to be building systems that automatically generate content while we're sleeping. And that's what this system does here. So in today's video, I'm building this entire automation system, and this is the end product that generates these posts while you sleep so that you can just wake up in the morning and have maybe 6 to 10 posts ready for you to post directly onto social media. This video is episode 2 of 9 of the n8n and Airtable AI system series, where I teach you how to turn basic automations into systems. So if you haven't seen episode 1 yet, I'd encourage you to go back there so we can see how we plan these types of workflows. And then if you've not subscribed yet, then make sure you subscribe so you can get access to the remaining videos in this series. Now you might see this style of post on Instagram all over the place, and we can do this very easily entirely with AI. So this AI automation here reads a newsletter, it analyzes the newsletter, and it splits out all of the relevant topics into different items, does a further web search on that product, and then creates the text post headlines, chooses the best headline, and generates an image description so that it can generate the entire image using AI, and it uploads to this dashboard ready for you to approve or deny the posts and send them off into the social media platforms. Now, if you are interested in this n8n template, we do have it for free inside of our community. Just go into the resources tab here, find the IG News Post Automation System, and you can download this template for free. So you just need to sign up on a landing page and you'll get access there. Now, if you don't know me yet, I run makebigmoves.ai, and we build AI systems for clients. Every single build we have, we build systems, not just automations. And that's really what we teach about here on this channel. Plus, we have over 700 members in the community who have purchased and used our AI automation systems for their own businesses and then for their client businesses as well. So the rest of this video is going to show you exactly how we built this. We built this entirely from scratch and recorded the whole process so you can build along with us. This is what we're building today, a full automated system that will find articles it can write just like this, create the article, create the headline, put the headline on the image, create the background image, and then make it available inside of a database so that it's ready for you to post directly into Instagram or any other platform that you want to post it to. And we've built this for clients before, but I'm going to make this one a little bit different. I'm going to try a couple of different things in this one. We're going to build it completely from scratch. We'll use an Airtable base that I have, and then we'll build out the AI analysis components to then pull articles from reading your newsletter and then determining whether it's relevant to our audience or not, and then creating all of the assets required to make this post. If you don't know me yet, my name is Mitch Asa, and we build these types of AI automation systems for clients. And the most important thing to remember is clients do not want AI automations. They want systems that they can use inside of their business, that they can train their team members on, that is easy to use, that is easy to keep track of, that compiles all the information into one place. They don't want to be working inside of n8n or any of these other automation tools. So that's what we specialize in. We take these boring automations out there and turn them into real systems that people can use. Now, before I do dive in, the first thing that we need to think about is what type of AI image model are we going to create? And we've been testing a bunch of AI image models over the recent months. And by far, the one that stands out the most out of this list is GPT Image 1, still one of the best performing image models out there when it comes to image models. And that's what we need for this workflow, is a way for the AI to reference an existing image and then output a similar one. So we're going to use GPT Image 1. You can see even against Nano Banana, it just performs a little bit better. It's a lot more of a crisp type of image. But most importantly, because we are adding text onto this image, then we need the text to be ultimately flawless and styled quite nicely. So GPT Image 1 is still the best performing model right now. However, that may change. If that does change, then we can simply change the automation in future. So with that being said, then I do have a bunch of my prompts laid out here, ready to go. But basically, we're building this automated news posting platform. And the Airtable database will consist of 3 tables, which will be the brand assets, the newsletters, and the IG post database. The automation itself will read a niche newsletter. So it analyzes the newsletter in order to find relevant topics that the audience demographic would actually be interested in. Then it researches those topics, creates the post headline, and chooses the best headline plus the background image instruction. And I mean, we could generate 3 images. I think I'm just going to do it with 1. And then if you want to generate more than 1 at a time, then you can definitely do that. And then we're going to add that to the database for approval. So should be fairly simple, but you could also add things on to this type of workflow. And you could do things like auto post to social media via Metrical. You could recreate the image and headline. So let's say that it doesn't get the image and headline fully correct, then you could actually get it to recreate with your updated headline. You could integrate it into other AI image models, so you could try out some of the lesser known ones, and you can easily make those changes yourself. But if you need help with any of those customizations to this system, you can get in touch with my agency, makebigmoves.ai. We have plans starting from a few $1,000s and up, and we can help you make those customizations to get them exactly how you want. But one of the most important things that we always think about when building these types of systems is we want it to be scalable, and we don't want it to be scalable just internally to the individual business that we're working with, but we typically build them in a way that would make them scalable as if you were like an agency as well. So maybe you're a content agency and you wanted a template like this, or maybe you have a couple of niche brands that you have a slightly different brand voice, or maybe you have completely different niche avatars as well that you want to use this type of this template for. So that's why we build things like brand assets and integrate those types of things into the workflow so that we could attach the records or the posts that we create to that brand. And then from that brand, you'll be able to schedule your posts. So I'm going to talk about all of that as I go, but the most important thing that I want you to remember, and I'm going to repeat this time and time again, it'll be the main thing I talk about on this channel, which is build systems for clients, not automations. Clients don't care about automations. They want systems that they can use, that they can easily train their team on. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's dive into this and just start building now. I'm just going to build this on the fly with you and to show you all of the things that I would do when building this out from scratch. So first we need to check our database and make sure that we're set up. We've got our brand assets, newsletters, and IG post database. Now, because we have built this before, then I figured rather than starting from scratch, then let's just use what we have, and I can talk through this. So number 1 is our brand assets. So these are things like the brand voice guidelines for that brand, excluded words and phrases that we don't want the AI to use. A writing grade level. When you start adding a writing grade level into your prompts, you get way better outputs. Plus, we can also trigger the different workflows very easily with these types of IDs built into our base. So if you haven't seen how we build automations yet with webhooks, then we're probably not going to do it in this video, but you'll be able to find these types of things in some of our other videos where we talk about this and how it can just improve your building times to be so much more efficient. The most important part of this workflow though, and let me just open up an interface to give you a quick look at that. So when we're working with clients, we always build interfaces to make it easy for them. Here's an example of a very basic interface. So we've got our Big Moves brand. We have a writing grade level of 6 grade on this one. We use the English language. So again, you might have clients in multiple different languages, especially if you're in Europe. Then you could build an automation system once, but ask it to output in a different language very easily just by adding a language field into your systems. We also have our Metrical IDs. So we use Metrical to post directly via the API into social media. And then we have our brand voice guidelines and our excluded words. But for this workflow, we also need an example image that we're going to reference when we are building out this workflow. So here's an example of an image that I thought was pretty cool. One thing that I would maybe change if I was doing this for a client is getting rid of these 2 little icons here. So I think this icon is probably the brand image or the brand logo. So we wouldn't really want that on the reference, and it may show in our image that we output. But for the sake of keeping time, and we can test it to see how accurate it is as well. But if I was doing this in a real client project, I would actually remove those things. However, this is what we want to try and get, some sort of output that looks similar to this, but for our own Big Moves brand. We will then output it into this social post tab. There's no records in here. It's a little bit hard to see, but they'll get output into this social post tab. And this tab is largely just the CSV file from Metrical. So Metrical provide a bulk upload CSV file. And if you're working with the API, then you just need to match the exact same CSV, right? Because the CSV is just uploading it into the API anyway. So rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, we look for these types of resources when we're building out systems. Like if we're going to post via Metrical, then we look for something that could help us within Metrical. And I found this CSV file. So we simply just imported that into Airtable, and then we had to make a few customizations. Like we had to make a few single select fields rather than just a typical text field. We added a few checkboxes rather than like a true or false, because once you tick the box, it actually becomes true anyway inside of the API. And we did make a few updates to this list and added our own fields, but predominantly we've integrated this CSV file into this system. Now, the benefit of this is because we've got our brand assets, when we choose our brand assets, we can also integrate our Metrical blog ID and user ID that is linked in from our brand assets tab. So this is via what we call a lookup field. And see here, I can't make any edits to this. It's simply pulling in the extra field from our brand assets because we've already formatted that and we've linked that record into here. So this is like basic database structuring techniques. This is how we begin to build a system. This is like systems design, understanding why we should only have one field that can be editable throughout the entire database. You don't want to have a brand voice guidelines on every single table within the database. And then if you need to update your brand voice guidelines, you don't want to be going into 5 different places. You only want to update it in one place and it updates everywhere else. That is one of the key building principles when we're designing systems here. So that's what we've done so far to this point to get this ready so that it's good to go for this particular system. Now, when we generate the AI components, we'll generate a text. We could even generate a date and time if we wanted to. I might leave this out. Generally, we just select that ourselves manually anyway, once we're doing a check. And we're going to generate a single picture. So we could generate carousels, but obviously that becomes a much larger task. And we could also generate a first comment potentially, but we'll see how we go. Like basically we just need some text. We need a headline and an image, and we need the brand that it's linked to. Now, we are obviously using the pyramid image here, but I'm not subscribed to any of those newsletters. The only ones I am subscribed to are these AI ones. So we're just going to use maybe Superhuman. It's a pretty good newsletter, and we'll use that one as our reference to begin working on this workflow. So let's just open this up now, and we'll just add in this Superhuman. So it's called Superhuman. Let's just call it Superhuman AI. So we're going to add this into our newsletters. Let's create an interface. So the interfaces make it so much easier for clients to work with. So let's just create a list. So we use list interfaces almost all the time now. And we can simply create a button up the top right here. And then if you click on that button, you can go to Open Record Creation Form. Then if we link that to our newsletters and then go Edit Form, we can here go Add Newsletter, Add New Newsletter. So let me just publish this. And we can, I probably should have allowed me to open this up. So basically what we can do is if you want to add a new newsletter into this system, then we can just come up here and we can add the URL to this newsletter. So we're just going to call it Join Superhuman, and we'll call this Superhuman AI. And then we want to attach this to a brand. So we can attach that to the Big Moves brand. And we know that now when we're generating any of the newsletters, we can link it to this record so we know which newsletter it came from. So this makes sense if you've got maybe a dozen different newsletters you're pulling from, and then you want to try and figure out which newsletter did this post, AI generated post, come from, and so forth. So like we always try and structure the database in a way that keeps track of the system itself and like how it's being used and where the AI is getting or where AI is pulling the context from and then generating an AI output. So that'll make more sense in just a moment as we build this out. But we also want to be keeping track of our brands as well. So what we could actually do is, or the newsletters for our brands. So we could open this up and we could also go newsletters, and then we could add in another field here and then add this one in. and if we hit publish, we can see from our all brands interface that Superhuman is a newsletter that we're tracking. So, I mean, we're not tracking it yet. We will be once we set up the n8n automation. But this is how we start to build systems where all of this information starts to come together. And if you log in here as somebody who knows nothing about automations, you have a good idea of what's actually happening. You can see, okay, this is for the Big Moves brand. This is the image we're trying to generate, or a similar image we're trying to generate. We're looking at this Superhuman AI newsletter each day in order to generate some article ideas. And you can see it all from a single tab. So that's what we do to build out systems. So that's like a good start. We've got our brand here, we've got the newsletter that we want to work with, and we've got the output table that we want to send data back to. So now we can come into n8n, and you might want to just open up a new folder. So I'm going to add this. I mean, this system is part of our bundle offer for n8n and Airtable systems. So I'm just going to create a new workflow in there. And we're going to call this one the IG news post articles. So if we remember, we were in the whiteboard before for our ClickUp. There's only one real automation we need to build for this workflow in order to get the system working. Of course, there's a bunch of add-ons you can add on to it, but the first step in building all of this is understanding what the trigger is. So let's dive back in. So the trigger is to read a newsletter, but we have to figure out how we actually read that newsletter. And I think the best way is let's just go trigger. I mean, we're going to add in a manual trigger for now, but the best one would actually be a scheduled trigger. So you could figure out when the newsletter gets sent each day. So maybe it gets sent at 9 a.m. and maybe you want to then read it at 10 a.m. Or you could set it throughout the night. Like what I'll typically do is set it for 6 a.m. so that it then generates the posts ready for when we log in the morning. So we're just going to hit the schedule trigger, and it's going to generate at 6 a.m. Next, we are going to then just connect in our Gmail account. So remember, that's where the existing emails were going. And we want to we want to get an email, I guess. So maybe it's a message. So here we're going to go get a message. And maybe that's not the right one. So we actually want get many. So we want to return all, not so much all, but we wanted to return basically so we want to filter this out a little bit. So we're going to get many, but we're going to add in a couple of filters. So the first filter should actually be the sender. So let's come back into our newsletter here. So the sender should typically be this email address here. So if we come back in here, if we type that in, then we should be able to that's going to get many of those returned by that sender. But we also want to create an expression in here as well. Now, the best way to do that is there's actually a decent n8n assistant inside of ChatGPT. So I'm going to say, create me an expression for time now, minus 24 hours. That might not be the right way to actually create this formula, but we'll try this first. And if it errors out, then we'll know that we can just change it. It's fine. All right, so we've got a simple expression or an IFE. I think we just need the simple one. Let's just see if we copy this in. And now we should just be able to hit execute and see what happens. So we put it in the wrong spot. Like, let's just try it in the received after. Still not the right one. Well, the limit is 1. So basically it's asking us to add in a limit here, and basically we just need a received after, which would be like the last 24 hours. So let me change this. I've added 50. Now give me an expression for the received after, which should be this one. And then let's try that. We go execute step. There we go. Perfect. So basically we just had to give it a limit here, and then we had to say received after, and this is like basically in the last 24 hours. So minus 24 times 60 times 60. Next, we then need to find how we can actually read all of this stuff here. So if I open it up in a table, And if we scroll across, it's not actually pulling in everything that we need. It's only pulled in a snippet. And the reason is because we had this simplify button turned on. So if we go execute step again, now we can see that it's pulled in a whole bunch of info here. So we have like the full HTML of the email, which is basically what we need. So we're making some progress. Next, we can simply ask AI to analyze this. So I'm just going to open up an OpenAI node. And I think we'll just use OpenAI for this entire workflow. And I like GPT 4.1 mini, I think, for this one. We'll go. We need to make sure we're integrated with OpenAI. And then we'll go GPT 4.1 mini. And I do have a prompt saved already. So let's see if we can find this prompt here. And I'm just going to copy all of this. I'm going to paste this in. And we're going to grab this from up here. And let me just give it a name first. So prompt 1 is to analyze. So we're using GPT 4.1 mini. And then we're saying this is HTML from an AI newsletter. I want you to read the entire newsletter and determine what stories and articles would be most interesting to our audience. We have an audience demographic of business owners, aspiring business owners interested in AI. Here's the HTML. So we're getting the HTML from back here. So you simply find the field of all the HTML for this newsletter. So here's the text as HTML, and then you would drag that in here like this. That variable is already there. And then we're saying return all topics in an array called AI tool articles, and within that have variables about and URL. So we're basically just giving it the instructions of how we want this to output and how the output should be structured. So let's just hit go as is right now. But we want to make sure we go output content as JSON because that's what we're asking it to do, right? So we're asking it to create an array. So let's just go execute step. And then if we have a look at our schema here, we've got our AI tool articles, and then it's broken down to about and the URL. So it's pulled in the URL that was referenced in the newsletter, and it gives a quick about of what this is actually about. So we have 8 different articles there that we could potentially create news articles for. So we've already analyzed the newsletter, and now we've got 8 potential articles. But the problem now is that we wanted to go a little bit deeper on all of this. So what I'd like to do next, and the way that we're going to structure this is we're going to ask it to do a little bit more web search. So we could take the information that is just inside of the newsletter alone, but a lot of the time these newsletters don't have like the full article of what it's about. They're actually just trying to push some clicks out into either their own website or to other websites, affiliate sites, whatever it is as well. So we can simply get around that by analyzing or by pulling the about of the article and then doing a web search of trending news in the recent days in order to pull our own information, and we can put it all together in order to create the post. So that's what we're going to do next. However, first and foremost, we need to split this out into multiple different items that we can do this one by one. We don't want to be doing it all together. So in order to do that, we simply just go split. We'll add this split out node, and then we just want to paste in our AI tool articles, which is the field to split out. And then if we go execute step, we now have our 9 items where we have an about field and a URL that we can go ahead and do all of our research on. So you can see all of these down here. Okay, so we've gone now from 1 item to 9 items, which means we can move on with the next workflow. And for here, let me just duplicate this since we've already set this one up. And the next workflow that we're going to do is the web search component. So we have this prompt here, and then let's just rename this straight away and we'll call this web search. And we'll link this up here. And then we'll simply change out this prompt with what we had before. And we've got now our context, which is our topic and our URL. And then we're saying your task is to research the above topic and create a detailed report of all the facts of this news announcement. So in order to do this, we actually need a web search model. So let's just type in web, or let's just type in search. And then we've got a couple of different models here. So GPT-4o Mini, GPT-4o Search, GPT-5 Search, Deep Research. I think we can get away. Let's go with 4o Mini Search. And I don't know which one. Let's just try this one, see what happens. And we'll hit execute on that. And no, it's the wrong one. So let's just try this 4o search. Let's go 4o search preview. Looks like it was not liking the JSON object there. So that was why we're glitching out a little bit. So let's just try that again. So it looks like GPT-4o search preview could be the one. So basically it's looking for probably the GPT Atlas. Maybe it will research this X post and then it will output all the facts for this, well, not just this item, but all of the items in our table here. So we've got all of the different ones that we want to do a little bit more research on. So this one's going to take a little bit longer than normal. While that's going, we can start building the next one. So I don't like to sit around and wait. We can now go to prompt 3, create text post. So once that is complete, we can then begin on the text. So here we go 3, create text post. So this is essentially the post description for the Instagram. And we're just going to paste that prompt in here and say context, we're implementing a social media strategy where we take the latest news and turn it into engaging Instagram posts like the example below. The post contains a headline on a main image to capture attention, blah, blah, blah. Then we have our news announcement, then our instruction. Your task is to write an engaging social media post. It should be less than 2,000 characters, non-biased, written as if you're an expert tech reporter or journalist. Encourage conversation, highlight big controversies, close with a comment to encourage users, like what do you think, is it X or Y? And then output it just the text only. So we don't want any headlines just yet. We just want the text component only, or the text description component only of the actual article. Okay, so that's been provided here. We've got our news announcement in here. So you can see that it's pulled in a bunch of facts from the web about this into this workflow. But we could also add in the about as well. So like we can say original about, or original news announcement, or we can say short description of news announcement. We could add in the source. So we could add the about there. We could add the URL in there just to make it a little bit better. And then we can ask it to write the post. Now, the one thing that we didn't add into ours originally, but we could actually fix it up here, is back here, we could actually pull in our brand assets, right? So like the brand details that we need. Maybe we can just add it here anyway. So in order to do this, then we would just need to go to our Airtable and we want to get a record. And now we just need to search for this one here. So this is our IG news system. And we want to search our brand assets. And here we can add in the record ID for that brand. So it does mean that you're going to have to create individual ones for this brand, but like individual n8n automations per brand. But you kind of need to do that anyway per newsletter. So it's not a big deal. But up here in the URL box, you might not see this if you like because of the editing, but you can find the record ID in the URL, but you can do it by adding in this record ID formula here, and then it will give you the record ID of this record, so of this brand. So I'm simply just going to copy that and then I'm simply just going to copy that and come back into here and just paste our record ID, and we'll hit execute step. So basically this is just going to pull in all the information from that record ID so we can use it. So predominantly what we're looking for is brand voice guidelines and excluded words. So I can add this into the prompt itself and get it a little bit more accurate than what we previously had. So we just need to remap in this news announcement content first. And then up the top here, I would say now brand context, and I would add in our brand voice guidelines. So I'm just going to go brand voice. Excluded words and phrases will pull in easily. And then I'll say write at a grade level. and then we can just map these in. So we map in our brand voice here. We map in our excluded words right here. And then we'll say right at a 6th grade level, right here. So if we look over here on the right, we can see now that we're pulling in that brand voice. So hopefully it can reference the brand voice plus what we need to write about and give us a much better output at the end of the day. So let's hit execute step now. This is actually a writing prompt. So I would actually change the model here as well. So, I mean, I think 4.0 is still probably one of the better writing GPTs. You could use GPT-5 if you want, but I'm just going to use 4.0 for this workflow. Let's just stop this. We don't need it to keep generating. And let's go execute. Try again with GPT 4.0 latest. And then now that should give us a much better text description post for this workflow. All right, next, then we want to generate headlines. So let's just copy this one in. So again, we're just going to go duplicate. While that's still generating, we'll call this headlines. And I'm going to keep the brand context in here. And then I'm simply just going to paste over the top of this one. So we're saying headlines. So we want to feed it the article. And then we're saying generate 3 headline variations for the post above. So I hate having a colon in the headlines. So I'm trying to avoid that. We're saying a maximum of 4 to 7 words. And we're asking it to output in the JSON format. It should look like this. Now, before we go any further, we just need to remap in some of these things here for our brand voice. And then we should just be able to go like this. All right. So in this one, we're saying, here's our brand context. Here's the article that it just wrote. So it just wrote this article for us. And let's just have a quick look. OpenAI just dropped the big update. Agent mode is here in the Atlas browser. Okay, cool. And we're saying create 3 headline variations. And we've got some rules around that, and then we're asking it to output in JSON. So if it's going to output JSON, we need to check this mark here, or this slider, in order to output this as JSON, and then we'll go execute step. So again, while that one's working, then we're just going to keep working along. So I like to generate 3 headlines first, and then get AI to choose the best headline out of the 3 afterwards. Plus, we can map the 3 original headlines back into the Airtable base if we wanted to. But the reason why I do this is because I think having 2 shots at getting the perfect output is actually way better than just one in many cases. So here, we're going to ask it to choose from the top 3. And we'll also make sure it knows our brand context and so forth. And here, we're just going to remove all of this and then paste in our prompt. And then this instruction is saying that an expert copywriter analyze the headlines. The headlines that include prominent names of companies, brands, or public figures are generally the better ones. Maximum 4 to 7 words. Use highly recognizable names. Use controversial headlines, and then output the headline on its own, no prefix or suffix, which means we need to then turn off the JSON component. So we can see now it's just generated that. So for this one, it's generated these 3 headlines here, which we have pulled into the prompt over here. And then we ask it to analyze these and choose just one. So, and it should just output the headline on its own, not anything else. So give that a little save as we wait. And then the next one is then we need an AI image description. So this will help us put together the image component of this entire system. And then we can get into the actual image generation. So let's go prompt 6, image description. And then here we no longer need the headlines as we now have a headline. And we are then saying, we're asking it to be a prompt engineer. We're saying, here's the context. We're giving it the output structure of what we need. We're asking it to do shock advertising principles. And then we're asking it, here is the article, we're providing the source. So here is the article. So this should actually say headline. And this one should say article. And we need to just map in this create text for post. We need to remap this in. So we're just going to put this here like this. And then we're saying output, you must provide one output for a single image to be created. So basically all of this is saying that we want it to contain a headline at the bottom, but large bold. So we're giving it context of how it's going to look, but then we're saying that your task is to create the background image prompt only. We will provide the image model with the other details like headline and the fade, etc. So if we now go execute on this, it should give us some sort of description that we can begin to add into the image model components. And this is where this workflow starts to get a little bit more interesting. Now, like before we go any further, let's just recap what we've done. So we've scheduled a trigger to run once a day. It then searches for the email address that the newsletter is sent from. It will analyze that newsletter for all of the relevant articles from that newsletter that it believes to be significant or to be worthy to be sent to our audience. It will then split out all of those different articles that we'll then research and do some more research on. We'll pull in so let's just change this to get brand guidelines. So we pull in our brand guidelines, like our brand voice, so that we can use that throughout the rest of the workflow. We then create a text post, we create some headlines, we choose the top headline, and then we create an image description prompt that will look like this. So a robot wearing a backpack parachuting out of a computer screen that's on fire. Okay, that'd be interesting. Let's see if we can pull that off. Now, what I know from experience is that if we send 9 items directly into the OpenAI API, then it's probably going to time out. So we actually need to run this a little bit differently. So what we actually need to do back here is loop through these items. So we come back here and we add in a loop, and then here it's asking to replace me. So we actually replace, so the loop starts here, and then the replacement, it actually comes back around after the image component. So I should have thought of this earlier, but we're going to have to generate this again from this section. So let's just execute this workflow. And now it's still going to do the 9 items, but it's only going to do 1 at a time, which means the workflow takes a little bit longer, but it won't time out because of API issues. So if you run 9 items through the API at one time, unless you're a massive spender, the API is just not going to allow it to happen. So that's what we have to do here. So we now have our 1 item that we can use. And then once we complete the OpenAI component, then we will loop it back around. Okay. So the next thing we do is we need to use the GPT image 1 node. However, it doesn't have an image to image component set up inside of inside of n8n. So if I go OpenAI and then I look through here at our image actions, we can only analyze an image or generate an image. Here, let me just check, unless they've changed something recently, is we have no option to generate an image from an image. So we have here like just an image. We don't have any way to go from image to image. We could do a custom API call, which is what we need to do, but it's saying use a HTTP request. So we'll delete that out, and we're going to go and check the documentation for how we do image to image. In order to do that, we can come across into our platform.openai.com, and then we want to go into images, and then we want to go create images, and we want to go to the image API, and then we want to look at create image variation. So that means we need to post to here, I believe. No, we want to create an image edit. So this is where we're posting to. So we can set this up first. So we come into our HTTP call, and we'll go OpenAI image edit. And then the method is post as per the documentation, and then we'll type in our URL here. Our authentication, we can actually use OpenAI because we've already done that. So we can use OpenAI. And then we would want to send our headers, which would be content type. And then it should be application JSON, I would think. Let me just check. So over here, authorization bearer, model, maybe we don't need it. Anyway, we can try. And then we want to send in our body. And then here we can just go, we actually need to go using fields below. We actually need to do a couple of things here. So first we need to go form data, n8n binary file. We may need to actually get a file first. So let's just go HTTP and we're going to go get a file from our brand assets. So we want to pull in this file. What happens if I just go get? Okay, so we've pulled this reference image in here. So I think that's all we need. So basically we need to pull in both the binary file and the data. So the things like the prompt and so forth. However, I haven't done this for a long time, so I'm simply just going to ask the n8n assistant. So it's saying send body yes, content type form data multipart, and then it's saying here like name, email, description, blah blah blah, add binary. So this add your binary field. So it'd be add property, add binary property, name, which would be file, and then data. So that's actually quite easy. File and then data. And then, so the other ones would then be, should just be the fields of what we get from the API docs. So up here, we'll go, so we want, it should actually be image, right? So maybe this one should actually be image. And then the data is what we send into there. And then up here, we add in our prompts that is required, and nothing else is required. So let's just test it with that. So we'll just go prompt, and then our prompt is our image description combined with some other things. So let's just come back in. So here we'll just type in main prompts. Wonder if we can create an expression to change it to capital letters. If not, then we just need to change our prompt. Okay. Cool. So I wanted that all uppercase, so we can just do that. I'm just going to test this and see what happens. I'm not sure if it will actually work. Let's just run it. You may need to run these previous nodes. It's a bit annoying. We should have saved or pinned this data. And I forgot to hit record as I just completed all of that. But we've completed this now, and we've got image data. We've got our prompt in here. We've got our model, so GPT image 1. We've got our form data size, so 1024 by 1536. So we can get this from all of the documentation over here. You could also do multiple images if you want to. So the number of images to generate between 1 and 10. We could also do quality. So I would probably put the quality to high as well if we're putting this into production. So you have all of these variables now. So this is going off and it's generating it. So it's looking at this image here, and then it's generating another image that should look somewhat similar to this. So let's give it a second now. Okay, so it's created a base 64. So if we just go B64. So now we want to grab this B64 JSON and go convert to file and bring that into our B64 input field and hit execute step. And now if we view this to see how it turned out, is OpenAI helping hackers? Okay, not a bad response here. So it's got the text done pretty well. Is that the actual headline we gave it? Is OpenAI helping hackers? Awesome. So then we've converted that to the file. Now all we need to do next is upload this into our Airtable base. So again, we just go Airtable and we want to create a record now. So we want to add this into our Airtable base. And we'll need to just choose our IG post base. From the list, we then choose our social post tab. And that should now bring in these fields. Now we want to map this to our brand assets. So we're going to have to do this manually. And to do that, we add that into an array. So remember, we've done this before. So we come back into our Airtable and we want to get our record ID from in here. Simply come back in and then we're going to paste it in there like that. Next, we'll put our status to do. The text is going to be the create text post. The dates we're going to leave out. The time we're going to leave out. Post schedule we're going to leave out. The picture URL is what we just generated. So in order to get that, then this is where it can sometimes get a little bit challenging with OpenAI, because we probably will need to download this into a database first. So I think we can actually try Google Drive, but we actually use Cloudinary. They give you quite a good free plan, and they actually have a node here now. We used to use HTTP node all the time, but we can actually upload an asset from here, and I don't have the credentials set in. So you could set up your credentials here and it would be super easy. You just follow those things. But because I don't have that set up, rather than go and do it, I'm just going to be lazy. Let's see if we can do Google Drive. We will go upload a file, and we'll just give this a name, like the headline name. We may need to then share it, so let's just do that anyway, because I think we'll have to. Well, let's just try it without it. So let's just, if we go create a record, and in this picture URL, we want to do the same thing where we're going to upload, from, I don't know, it's going to be one of these two. I always get confused with which ones we need. So we actually need to create an expression. So I'm just going to explain this to ChatGPT. So basically we're asking it to get the web content link or the web view link. I don't know why it's given us two here. Let's just see if it actually gets this right. It may not. Basically, it just needs to give us a different expression. It's basically just pulling in the web content view link. Anyway, let's just test that. And then I'm going to turn this on for Instagram. Let's just see. Nope. So it expects an array, which is basically what I was trying to get from it the first time. So I just paste that error in here and hopefully it'll fix it up this time. So it should give us like URL in the actual expression. It should be like URL is this. So, I mean, it's not working for some reason, but I think it should look something like this in an array maybe. That looks a bit better. So that might have worked. Let's check our social post tab. And here, let's just delete this error one that was here. We've got our text and we have no picture URL. So let's just check, see if we can figure out why. URL, what happens if we click through this? No access, like I said, so we probably just need to give it access. So let's just come back. So we go Google Drive, and then we're going to go share file from ID, permission, role. Let's just go reader, anyone. Let's just go anyone, writer, anyone, try that one. And we just need to remap in this one now. We will get there, I promise. All right, let's see if this one works. And we have an image. Perfect. So let's like re-look at what we've just done since we generated the AI component. So we got the image, we brought this into the workflow. We uploaded the image into OpenAI. So we went to image edits and then we uploaded it as image data, gave it the main prompt. So this main prompt pulled in the AI generated prompt, plus it's saying add in the fade to black, like the reference image, and then add in the headline like this in capital letters. We then generate the image. It then converts that image to a file, uploads the file into Google Drive, shares that file so the permissions can send it back into Airtable, and then sends it into Airtable back here. And we've linked it to our brand assets. What we didn't link it to was the newsletter. So I forgot to set that up when we made that change at the start. So let's also go after here, let's go insert right. We'll go link to another record. We'll go newsletter, and then we'll go create field. And if we come back into here, should be able to go to create a record. Let's redo this newsletter name, and then we just need to get our newsletter record ID. So we come back into here, we can go formula. Here we'll go record ID. Add this formula in here, we'll call this record ID. We can grab that record ID, come back into our n8n workflow. We need it in an array, plus in your 2 quotation marks, paste it in here like this, and then we'll go execute step. Should run through and generate again a third time, and then link it into both the brand assets plus the newsletter name. Perfect. So the reason why we do that is because of the interfaces. It's going to look so much better in there. All right, cool. So let's jump into our interface now and fix that up. So we'll come into our social post tab. We go to our big moves brand, And in here, we should now see this. And if we open this up, we can see the article is here, plus the image is here. And we could go newsletter, see the newsletter that it has been referenced to, Superhuman. But let's not stop there. Let's come back into our newsletters and make the same change here in this one. So we'll open this up, and then down here we'll go post created, and then we'll go social post tab, and the exact same thing has been added into here. So here though, I want to change this out. I'm going to change this to add the status, and we can add the text, and we kind of want the image. So we can see the image there as well. I think that's kind of cool. And let's just make this a little bit nicer looking. But we could also allow it so that they can go directly to the post detail from here as well. And we could even make that like full page. So let's just publish all of those. So now that we have that working, remember that it doesn't end there though. So we've now figured out this workflow here to loop through all of these items. So what we need to do, let's just unpin all of this data here. And what we need to do is loop back around to the beginning of this loop over items here, and then it will run through all of them. Once that's done, you could have a status update on this done component here, and maybe you send yourself a notification or something like that. However, there's nothing really that is needed in this section here. So let's just give this a run now, and we're going to let it generate all of those images. And I'm going to show you at the end how this entire interface works. And you'll be able to see how much nicer it looks now that we've got all of this under the same banner. Okay, so let's tune back in now. It looks like it's almost done. I was running it before, and then we had a thunderstorm and the power cut out and the internet cut out. So it started generating a few, and then I've started generating it again. So here's all of the different ones. Let's just click into this top one here as an example. So it's mapped it to big moves. We come in, we select our own day, we add in our time. We could have created the first comment if we wanted to. Here's the article about Google. And then here's the, I mean, that image is actually pretty cool. I don't mind that. So here's, is Google hiding AI in ads? So it's obviously something to do with ads. So Google obviously got caught out for doing something. Let's just have a quick look at some of these other images, because these are actually way better than when I first created this with n8n. Now I'd probably maybe work on this a little bit down here and add a bit of padding underneath the text component, but that one's not too bad. Let's have a look. One about Amazon. So Amazon and Google pushing AI too far. Another one here about tech giants. Meta's AI bet just tanked profits. It's one about Perplexity. Is Getty selling out to AI? Here's an Amazon one. I mean, I'm not amazed that ChatGPT actually generated Jeff Bezos, or tried to generate him. And it's actually pretty funny. I mean, these are cool images. Okay, so I got one incorrect. So again, the padding thing. So that may be something that you want to work into the prompt, is making sure that it has enough padding on underneath. But overall, that's like a pretty solid generation, right? So remember, we can access this from, if we go to our all brands, we can access this newsletters tab here if we allow it. Let me just open this up. So we could go allow the record detail. And then from there, it opens up the newsletter. And then from that newsletter, we can see all of the different articles that's published from that newsletter so far. So all of these will just start lining up. Then we just need to add in the time and date. And then if we come down here, we can then schedule this post via our metrical automation, which I'm going to give you for free if you do purchase our AI automation bundle and get the n8n and Airtable templates from us. Then I'll give you this metrical one for free as well. And then you can simply just send this off into Instagram directly from here. So that's basically the entire system. Now let's have a quick look at what's going on here. We've still got one more generating at the moment, so that image, we'll just take a look at that in a second. But once that's done, then the workflow is basically completed. Then we can just unpin this, turn it on to run every day at our scheduled trigger time, which was 6 a.m. in the morning. Then, I mean, this does take a while because we're using GPT image one. They probably take like almost a minute each when creating. So if there's 9 articles, then it's going to take at least 9 to 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Sometimes it could be 2 minutes. However, like I said, if you're running this in the morning and it's getting generated while you sleep, then it doesn't matter if it takes 20, 30, 40 minutes, let alone 10 minutes. So let's just quickly check what this last one was. And one here about Amazon. Did Amazon fake $9.5 billion? So $9.5 billion pre-tax gain thanks to early bet on AI startup Anthropic. Okay, interesting. So yeah, ultimately that workflow is done. We also have a bit of a dashboard here so you can see how many have been created versus published versus overdue. And then of course you can add in your different brands and so forth. So if you are interested in this template, then it will be available in a link in the description. We'll also have set up videos of how you can actually get that up and running inside of your own n8n and Airtable accounts as well. And it is combined with a whole bunch of other templates. We try and build really incredible systems here that allow you to get started so much quicker. And then you can dive in and start making your own customizations. We want to get you like the 80% of the way first and save you dozens and dozens of hours of trying to figure this stuff out yourself with these templates. So I'd encourage you to go check them out. It'd be the best deal you'll ever find in AI. I can promise you that. And if it doesn't save you time over the next 30 days, then tell us how you installed it, how you were using it. And if you can tell us that you have a better system internally yourself and you save more time with your own system, then point that out and we'll be more than happy to give you a 100% refund on your purchase as well. So I hope this was valuable for you. And now you can see how you can build these types of systems for either your own brand or your clients' brands as well. So if you are interested in more of these n8n and Airtable systems, make sure you watch this video next. But keep in mind, it's another long video, so make sure you're ready to lock in. See you there.